Alright, gather round everyone, because I've got a story for you that still gives me chills just thinking about it. This happened years ago, back when I was a teenager, on New Year's Eve. You know how that night feels, right? Full of excitement, anticipation, a little bit of magic in the air. Well, this night had a different kind of magic, something darker. My parents were heading out to a neighbor's party, just a few houses down the street. It was the usual routine. They told me, "We'll be back shortly after midnight. Don't stay up too late." And just like that, I had the whole house to myself. It was pretty cool, actually. I had the TV, all the snacks I could want, and the freedom to just chill. I was sprawled out on the couch, watching the ball drop in Times Square, feeling that universal buzz as the final seconds of the year ticked away. 10. 10. 10. 8. You know the drill. The moment the clock struck 12, the whole neighborhood just exploded. Fireworks started bursting in the sky. A beautiful chaos of color and sound. People were cheering. Car horns were honking. It was the sound of a new year being born. And right at that exact moment, amidst all that celebration, I heard something else. A knock. It came from the back door, the one that leads out to our small, fenced-in backyard. My first thought was, oh, it's just the neighbors. Our backyards were close, and people were probably spilling out of their houses, caught up in the moment. Maybe someone was a little tipsy and knocked on the wrong door, trying to get back into their own party. I wasn't scared, just a little curious. I got up from the couch and tiptoed over to the small window set into the back door. I peered through the glass, expecting to see a friendly, familiar face, maybe someone waving a sparkler. The backyard was empty, bathed in the flashing, intermittent light of the fireworks. And then it happened again. Knock. Knock. This time was different. It wasn't the quick, friendly rap from before. This was slower, more deliberate. Each knock was perfectly spaced, heavy and intentional. It cut through the noise of the fireworks like a knife. It sounded like someone wanted to be let in, and they were very, very patient. My heart started to pound in my chest. This wasn't a neighbor anymore. This wasn't the wind. Every instinct in my body was screaming that something was wrong. I crept back to the door, my hands shaking slightly. I looked through the window again, straining my eyes in the dark, trying to see past the glare of the fireworks. Still, nothing. The yard was as empty as before. Who knocks and then hides? I backed away from the door slowly, my mind racing. Should I call my parents? They were only a few houses away, but I didn't want to be the kid who ruined their party over nothing. Should I call the police? What would I even say? Someone knocked on my door, but I can't see them. They'd think I was crazy. The knocking started again, and it didn't stop. Knock, knock, knock. It was a slow, rhythmic, maddening sound. It felt like a countdown of its own. But to what? I had no idea. I couldn't stand it anymore. I did the only thing I could think of. I ran around the house, turning off every single light until I was plunged into total darkness. My only light source was the distant, colorful bursts in the sky. I grabbed the heaviest thing I could find in the living room, a big, clunky art history book, and I went to the bottom of the stairs. I figured if someone broke in, I'd have the high ground. I sat there on the bottom step, in the pitch black, clutching this ridiculously heavy book, listening. The fireworks were still going, but they were starting to thin out as people ran out of their stash. And through it all, the knocking continued. Knock. 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 It was the only constant sound in a sea of chaos. It felt personal. It felt like whoever, or whatever, was out there knew I was inside. They knew I was alone, and they knew I was scared. I must have sat there for what felt like an eternity, my ears ringing with the sound. My whole body was tense, ready to spring into action. And then, as the last few fireworks whistled and popped, fading into silence, the knocking stopped. Who's like that? The sudden silence was almost more terrifying than the noise had been. The only sound left was my own ragged breathing and the thumping of my heart against my ribs. The neighborhood was quiet again, the New Year celebration over. Primera. Hahua. Ited. I didn't move a muscle for at least another 20 minutes. Just sitting in the dark, listening. Nothing. Complete silence. Finally, I saw the familiar headlights of my parents' car sweep across the living room wall. I've never been so relieved to see those lights in my entire life. I scrambled to my feet, my legs feeling like jelly, and ran to the front door to let them in. They came in, laughing and happy, wishing me a happy new year. I tried to explain what happened, the words tumbling out of my mouth in a panicked rush. Someone was knocking on the back door, over and over, but nobody was there. Taylor and Ned, and they tried to be understanding, but you could see the skepticism in their eyes. My dad said, "It was probably just the fireworks. Honey, the vibrations can do weird things." To prove his point, he went to check the back door. My mom followed him, and I trailed behind, still shaking. My dad reached for the handle and said, "See, everything's fine. It's locked up tight." But as he turned the knob, it clicked open. The door swung with a soft creak. We all just stood there, staring at Italiano. My dad's face went pale. He turned to my mom and said, "I know I locked this. I double-checked it before we left. I always do." My mom just nodded, her eyes wide. They swore up and down they had locked that door. We never figured it out. There were no footprints in the yard the next morning. No signs of anyone having been there. But I know what I heard. And I know that for a very specific, terrifying period of time, as one year ended and another began, something was standing on my back porch, patiently knocking, waiting to be let in. To this day, the sound of fireworks on New Year's Eve doesn't fill me with excitement. It fills me with dread, because it takes me right back to that night, sitting alone in the dark, listening to a knock that should have never happened, on a door that should have been locked. So, what do you guys think? Was it a prank? A coincidence? Or something else entirely? Let me know your theories down in the comments. I'd love to read them. This is one of those memories that has just stuck with me forever, and I'm curious to hear what you all make of it. Thanks for listening to my story. If you have any creepy stories of your own, I'd love to hear them. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Stay safe out there, and maybe double check your locks tonight. See you in the next one.